Hi guys, how's it going? I am here talking to you guys about something really important today. I haven't been able to sit down and talk to you guys for a while just because of my whole work schedule and other life things happening, so I'm trying to look at the camera and not myself, trying to ignore my cringiness, but this is a serious topic today. I'm going to start this part of my channel called Mental Health Mondays, and I've been wanting to do this ever since I started on the channel, but I haven't gotten around to really starting it and coming up with some good content for it. So today is the first installment of this, and our topics today are suicide, which I'm going to hit on just barely, because that is a big topic to go into, and my main topic today is emotional abuse. So the reason I want to talk about suicide is because a lot of people have heard about the suicide of Chester Bennington from Lincoln Park. He killed himself by hanging on July 20th, as has been reported by the LA County coroners. He was 41 years old. He left behind 6 children, and he was obviously a big influence and inspiration for a lot of people. He was very talented, very smart, and he impacted a lot of people's lives. I can say that personally. I've grown up on Linkin Park and a lot of music like that, and it was a shock. I mean, obviously he had some mental issues and some drug and alcohol abuse issues that he'd been going through for a while, but he shared that through his music, and he was very open about his issues. So to hear this was a very sad thing, so I want to give my condolences to everyone affected by this, and it really is a big thing. And I know, just let me, my arms get tired, I don't have anything to hold this up, but I don't want there to be a lot of conflict or any issues surrounding this, because I know a lot of people have their own theories and their own opinions. I'm just sharing my own thoughts. But it is a big deal, and he was a person. No matter how famous someone is or how well you think they have it, everyone has their own problems, and you try to remember that, even though he had such a successful career and all these things, like, behind the scenes, you never know what is really going through someone's head. So always try and remember that when you're seeing these kinds of things, and when you talk to people, anyone, try and remember that people go through their own things, and you don't want to say something or do something that could push them over the edge. But that's really all I wanted to talk about with that one. If you or anyone you know is having any issues thinking about suicide, having a lot of depression and anxiety issues, I have the National Suicide Hotline written here. I'm going to put it in the description, and I'll tell you right now, it's 1-800-273-8255. And I know a lot of people have this whole taboo thing of reaching out and calling a stranger, or even talking to friends and family, but if you are having any of these thoughts, please reach out to anyone, to me, to friends, family, to a hotline, to a chat room. There are people who are here for you, I promise. I know how it is, because I deal with depression and anxiety on a daily basis, and I know how it feels to just, sometimes your own thoughts and your own mind get to you and you feel like there's nobody and you're completely alone, but I promise you are not. So please reach out. That is what I wanted to talk about with suicide for today. We will hit that in another video just solely for that topic. But my main topic I wanted to talk about today was emotional abuse. I have dealt with emotional abuse through several relationships, including my most recent one. So I come from a personal standpoint on this, as I will with a lot of the topics that I talk about in future installments of this. So not only do I have things that I've researched and that I've talked to other people about who've gone through certain things, but I also have a personal touch on this. So I'm sharing some of my personal experiences, some of the things that I've experienced in my own life, and things that I've seen happen to other people. So some of the things that I like to talk about, yes, I have a notebook. I have points that I want to hit on. Basically with emotional abuse, it's very hard to describe. It can be different in every situation. But with emotional abuse, it can be very elusive, and sometimes the abuser and or the victim doesn't realize they don't realize it's happening. With the victim, usually they try to ignore the fact, or they try to kind of dumb down what they think is happening. No, it's not abuse. It's not abuse. It's just a hard day, a hard time, or trying to make excuses for the abuser. And the same for the abuser will do exactly the same. They will make excuses. They will, they'll hide behind other things, or they just don't even realize that they are so focused on whatever else is happening in their life that they don't realize that they're taking it out on the other person, whether it be in a romantic relationship, whether it be in a friendship, whether it be a parent-child situation. It can happen in any sort of relationship like that. A lot of cases of mental and emotional abuse recur in a regular pattern. So if you see the same things happening over and over again, and it's kind of like a cycle, it can be verbal abuse, criticism, shaming, manipulation, all things like that are forms of emotional abuse. It often occurs because the abuser has dealt with their own abuse as a child, or if they've had other things that happened that they never coped with, that they never really healed from. That's where it can stem from, is their own abuse or their own situations where they never really got over it. They never learned how to have a positive relationship. They never learned how to be in a healthy relationship, whether it be romantic or parent-child or anything like that. Abusers tend to have high rates of personality disorders. So if you notice, sometimes they have bipolar tendencies, some have borderline personality disorder, narcissistic personality disorder, and antisocial personality disorder. So if you notice any symptoms of those, along with some of the signs that I'm going to read off to you in a little bit, try and keep your eyes open for these. If you feel like something is not right, whether it be within yourself, if you feel like you're being abusive, or if you are being abused, either way, try and be aware of these signs. And maybe one in a little bit may not be a sign of abuse, but if you can recognize, 3, 4, 5 or more of these things happening on a regular basis, this could be a sign of emotional abuse. So it's something that it's hard to keep your eyes open for, but if you start to realize it, really start to pay attention and try and see what you can do about it. So some of the signs that I've experienced myself and things that I've researched on: victims don't see the mistreatment as abuse, like I said earlier. So sometimes they try and hide it. Sorry, my dog is running off. Toby, come here! They don't see it as abuse. They see it as maybe just a bad day or things like that. Long-term effects for abused people can be depression, anxiety, post-traumatic stress disorder, and some people usually just kind of think of PTSD as, being in the war, being, seeing really intense things. But you can also have PTSD from things like abuse in any sense, because it's very invasive in the mind. It can really mess with your brain and the way you think. And sometimes you don't even realize it. Another sign. The abuser will disregard your opinions or your ideas or your needs. They will completely make you feel like it doesn't even matter what you say or what you do or what you think. They accuse you for being too sensitive when they try and joke with you, or they tease you and you take it personally and you say, hey, like that kind of hurt, I don't appreciate that. And they just say, oh, you're too sensitive, quit being a baby. When they act like that, that can be an issue. They try to control you or treat you like a child. If someone is trying to control your actions or what you do or how you spend your money, things like that, who you hang out with, that is very dangerous. That's very toxic for your self-esteem, for your mind, for a lot of things. You feel the need to ask permission to make any sort of decisions. That goes along with being controlled. Ugh, that was a B. But you can make your own decisions. If you're an adult, you can do that. And to feel like you can't, or you have to ask permission, that will go on into other relationships and other scenarios, which is not healthy. They belittle your accomplishments. So say you got a promotion at work, or you saved enough money to buy a new car, and they shoot you down. They say, oh, well, you're still not making enough money, or, oh, well, we could have gotten something better, or something like that. And they just don't see your accomplishments and praise you. That is very, I keep saying very, but it's not, none of this is good. None of this is anything that can help you grow as a person. They try to make you feel like they're always right and you're always wrong. They give you disapproving looks or body language, mostly in public, because they don't want to speak to you in public and get caught, basically. So they'll give you those looks, and you know what they mean, and you see it, and it just makes you so self-conscious. They point out your flaws and mistakes. They blame you for things that aren't true. They can't laugh at themselves, and they can't tolerate people laughing at them. So they will, if someone catches them doing something and they laugh at them, they get pissed. They get so angry, and it's almost ridiculous how angry they get. And that's dangerous. That can show signs of an anger disorder, or even a sign of physical abuse about to start, because they've snapped in some way. Making excuses for their behavior, blaming others. They can't say sorry. They don't want to accept responsibility for their own actions. They cross boundaries. So if you say, oh, I'm not comfortable with this, or I don't like when you say that, and they keep doing it over and over again, it's abuse. They blame you for their problems and their unhappiness. They pin it on you for their issues. And when at the end of the day, you're responsible for your own happiness. A person being there for you is just a plus. You can't blame someone for you being unhappy. Being emotionally distant, pouting to get attention, going on the internet and looking for attention when you don't give it to them. That's happened to me personally a lot. Playing the victim to deflect the blame to you rather than taking personal responsibility, like I said. They don't seem to care about your feelings. They view you as an extension of them rather than your own self. So they think that they have all rights to you because you are a part of them instead of seeing you as your own person. They share your personal info about you with other people. I find this very, very wrong. When someone decides they can take it upon themselves to take your personal information and share it with other people, whether it be financial information, whether it be family information, whether it be something about you that you didn't want anyone else to know, something personal to you, and they feel like they can just share it with someone else without regarding your feelings or asking you, that's a problem. And that happened to me personally when I first decided that I wanted to be on antidepressants. This was sometime last year. My boyfriend at the time seemed really supportive at first. He seemed like, I'm glad you're trying to get help, and like, I'll go with you, and great. And we went to the doctor's office, and I came out and I was feeling really positive about it. I was having really good feeling about the whole situation. My doctor gave me a prescription. She gave me a list of people that I can talk to, and I went out and showed him. I was very excited, and he shot me down immediately, and he made me feel really just stupid about the whole thing. And I don't know what happened between that time that we went there and the time that I came back out, but he really hurt my feelings about that. And then not only that, but afterwards, I wasn't really comfortable telling anyone at that time that I was going to be taking antidepressants. He went and told basically all of our friends without asking, without saying anything to me about it, and I felt really self-conscious for a long time about it. I don't take them anymore. I'm working to go back and get on antidepressants again, but that's for another video. But I stopped taking them because I was so embarrassed, and that is not healthy. So things like that, those are bad signs. They don't seem to care about any of your feelings. Like that. Like the example I just gave you. That's not caring. They invalidate or deny their emotionally abusive behavior when they are confronted. So this also happened with the same individual. I started realizing these signs, and I told him that he was being abusive and that he was, really hurting me, and he would find a way to just deny it or avoid the conversation totally and turn it back around on me. And that is a very distinct sign of being emotionally abused and dealing with an abuser that doesn't really comprehend what they're doing to you. Making subtle threats or negative remarks. So like when you're in public and they aren't agreeing with something that you're saying or doing, they will find subtle ways to let you know that they aren't okay with it without really setting anyone else off. So giving you negative remarks or giving you subtle threats that you know what they mean, but nobody else does. Those are a few signs. There are more. And if you do research, if you look up certain signs in different situations, but those are some very basic signs that you can see in almost every situation of emotional abuse. If you notice these signs over time, if you notice someone getting angry or just being this way, if you need more examples, I can definitely share more examples with you later on. Please just be aware, because dealing with these things over time will cause you so much stress. It will literally make you sick. It will either, it can give you depression, anxiety, post-traumatic stress disorder. It can literally make you ill dealing with this kind of stress. So please be aware. If you do see these things, please try and regain your life. Try and get yourself away from this person or these people. And I know it can be hard because you feel like you can fix them, or you feel like, it's your fault, but it's not. You can't fix someone that's like this. It doesn't matter how much you care about them, but it matters whether they want to change, if they see what they're doing to you and to other people and to themselves. If they don't see it personally, they won't change. If they don't want to change, they won't change. It doesn't matter if you talk till you're blue in the face. They have control over their own self, and so do you. And that's all that there is at the end of the day. You have to make your own decision for you. And being with an abuser, especially when they don't understand, is completely toxic. Let's see. Emotional abusers can change if they want to, if they decide to get help. And it's not a 1-month program and you're fixed. It's not a cure. You will have to work at not being an abusive person for the rest of your life. It's a process. It always is happening. You always have to think about it consciously, what you're saying, what you're doing, if it will affect someone in a negative way. Those are things that you have to always keep in mind, and some people just don't want to put in that effort to change. Some people like having that power over somebody, and if that's the case, then you definitely don't want to be around this person. Still hitting my points. So, to begin some recovery, for someone that notices that they are being abusive or has been told that they are abusive, I have some steps if you really want to work on being a better person. You have to admit fully what you've done. You have to come to terms with the fact that you have been abusive and that you have made excuses and that you want to turn things around for yourself and for other people. You can't make excuses and you can't blame other people. You have to work on yourself and you have to take full responsibility for your actions. You have to recognize that abuse is a choice. It's not something that you're born with. It's not something that you can't help. It's a choice that you make every time you say something, every time you do something. It's a choice. You need to identify your patterns of controlling behavior. So like I said earlier, if you notice these controlling patterns over and over again, the same thing, the same apologies, the same, and then the same relapse into the bad behaviors, you have to recognize those and try and avoid them. You have to identify attitudes that drive this abuse. So if something triggers something in your brain that is like, I don't know how to explain it because I've never been on the other side. I want to say a victim, but technically that's what it is. I've never been on the abusive side as far as I could tell, going through all of these things. But you have to identify those kinds of triggers that will activate that abusive side, I guess, is how that would be worded. You can't demand credit for your improvements. Improving is extremely awesome and it's great, and I hope that, people that do recognize abusive behavior can improve, but you can't demand credit for it. You can't say, oh, well, I'm doing better now, so that doesn't prove anything. You have to work at it, and you have to constantly keep working at it, and if you get praise for it, that's great. But a lot of people just go about their lives that way, not being abusive. That's how it's supposed to be. So you can't just demand something for it. And you can't treat improvements as vouchers, saying, oh, well, I've been good for a while, so this little slip-up is okay. It's not. It's not okay. Any sort of abuse is an issue. And I'm sure people will have slip-ups if they actually try to improve. But you can't say, well, it's okay. You have to recognize that it's not okay and that you're going to continue to try and do better and keep progressing forward instead of backward. You have to develop respectful, kind, and supportive behaviors for yourself and for your partner or whoever is involved in the other side of the abusive relationship. You want to be kind, you want to be supportive, you want to be happy for the other person, and you want to do these things for you as well. You want to be able to carry the weight of the relationship. You want to be able to help the other person. You want to change how you act in arguments and heated conflicts. You don't want to get triggered. You don't want to freak out and snap and relapse back into your abusive behaviors. You want to recognize what sets you off and then cool down from it. And if you need the other person to help you with that, I'm sure they'd be more than willing. You want to accept the consequences of your actions and not feel sorry for yourself because you're dealing with consequences. At the end of the day, like I said, abuse is a choice. So you have to deal with the consequences of those choices. You can't feel sorry for yourself for that. This is a big topic. And you also can't blame others for your consequences. Those are the main points of signs of abuse and steps to recovery if you are feeling like you're abusive. Also, the National Domestic Abuse Hotline is 1-800-799-7233. I'll also put that in the description. But I'm running out of memory, so that is all I have to speak about today. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you next time.